If this is a familiar feeling and you're stressed out even before you get to the airport, well, help is at hand. By Jeeves will take the heartache out of packing suitcases properly, ironing shirts, folding clothes and tying that bow tie. Hello, I'm Josephine Ive. When my grandmother learned that I was going to train as a chef, I think she was pretty horrified. But she could never have guessed that I was going to have so much fun and enjoyment from now training butlers. I was dropped in at the deep end as a butler in England. I do mean dropped in at the deep end. I was asked to work that evening, and I was a little bit daunted to start off with, but have since thoroughly enjoyed working as a butler. And now here in Australia for the last 10 years, I've been training butlers and valets, and also travel up to the Southeast Asia Pacific region as well. I'm here now in the Windsor Hotel in Melbourne, and I have a whole stack of luggage here, which to some people would be quite daunting. Now, many people, when they're going to travel, they do, and I know that you're going to be able to relate to this, they take far too much stuff with them. They take clothes that they're going to come back with, and they know that they're not going to be worn. So you can actually eliminate a lot of those problems. First of all, don't even think about the piece of luggage that you're going to pack. Think first about what you're going to take with you, and then be a little bit ruthless. Look at it, lay it out on the bed after you've folded everything, and look at it more objectively, and to see whether in fact there are some things that you perhaps won't need. And one tip actually is don't ever take anything that you've just bought, because if you haven't worn it, the chances are you won't be satisfied with it when you go off on holiday, and of course unless it's t-shirts or things like that. But look at it objectively, and then start to mix and match to see whether in fact you can actually cut down and be a little bit ruthless about those extra shirts that you think that you can't live without. But in actual fact, another thing that you should take into account is how many different people you're going to see whilst you're away. Now, many people will take 4 weeks worth of clothes with them, when in actual fact they're only going to see 1 week's worth of people. And so therefore you can actually cut down on the number of clothes that you're going to take. If you're going to see lots of different people, then take less clothes, because they won't get bored with the clothes. You'll be the only one who gets bored with your clothes. And remember, you've got to leave some room in your suitcase as well to buy clothes when you're overseas. There's plenty out there to buy. The other benefit of actually folding all the clothes in advance and laying them out on the bed is that you can actually then use that as part of your checklist. Make sure you've got the right belts, the right colour shoes, you've got the right ties, you've got all the accessories that you need to go with all those outfits that you're taking away. Nothing more aggravating than getting overseas or away, even if it's just for a night, and then finding that you're just missing that one item that would have finished off that outfit or made you feel more complete. Now, once you've got all the clothes folded and everything is lined up on the bed ready to pack, now is the time that you can select the appropriate piece of luggage, not just for your clothes, but also for the style of travel and the occasion. Now, this video presentation is based on my book by Jeeves, The Essential Guide to Clothing Care, Valeting and Packing Your Suitcase. And packing the suitcase should be part of the anticipation of travel. After all, this is the start of the enjoyment of overseas travel, or even if you're just travelling away overnight. And remember the old saying, the more you know, the less you need. Now, the first stage of packing your suitcase after you've made all the checklists and what have you is to fold all your clothes. Now, many people, when they take a jacket, they throw the jacket down, fiddle around with the front, throw the sleeves across in half, and then fold the jacket in half, and then put it on top of their suitcase and expect it to arrive crease-free at their destination. Well, the best place to fold the clothes is either on the bed or on the table. And if you're going to use the bed, the best thing to do as well is to kneel down. It's going to be a whole lot more comfortable. And then you lay the jacket down, face with the inside face down, and make sure that you can get it as flat as possible. You then start to arrange the shoulder pads. The shoulder pads are actually going to be used in order to create some of the space. And with the sleeves as flat as possible, you take some tissue paper, and tissue paper comes in two types. So therefore you need to use the non-acid variety. And you just roll one piece of tissue paper into a small sausage so that you can put it in the halfway section of the sleeve. And do that on both sleeves. A little bit expensive sometimes to use all this tissue paper, but for crease-free results, it's going to be well worth it. Fold the other sleeve up in half, and then using more tissue paper, you can create more of these rolls of tissue paper to go wherever there is going to be a potential crease. So we're going to go underneath each sleeve here on both sides. Just roll it lightly so that you can create some space, and under the second sleeve. Now once you've got those in place, you're then going to bring the fronts of the jacket into the centre back. Now more often than not, it's useful to put some more tissue paper on the other side of the sleeve before you bring over that front of the jacket. Bring it over. Make sure that the sleeve underneath is still flat, and then the same on the other side. Just roll again into a nice sausage and then pop it down that side. Bring the front of the jacket over, carefully making sure that the sleeve is flat underneath. And then, if necessary, just one final piece of tissue paper down the centre back before we fold the jacket in half. Now you fold in half, take one side right over to the other side, turn the jacket around and just pull it out slightly so that it's straightened up. And then the final test is to make sure that the lapels are flat against each other because they're being protected by the shoulder pads. Now if you can get that into your suitcase like that, then do so flat. If not, if you have to get it into a smaller bag, you can then fold the jacket at the halfway line underneath like that, and it's ready. And this will remain crease-free for a long time. Now, once we have the jacket done, we can move that aside, ready to start on the trousers. Now, with trousers, like most items that you're going to fold, if you are going to have any potential creasing, at least try to get it in a flattering place. Now on trousers, you can try and get any sort of creasing along the back there, because when you sit down in trousers, you'll find that the warmth of your body will actually press that out. Likewise, the inexperienced traveller will fold their trousers in half. Now, what happens when you fold them in half like that is that you get a crease right on the knee, which shows your inexperience of folding. And also, because of the shape of trousers on the hips there, you will find that that will just go flat down. So we try to eliminate that, and the way we can do that is using tissue paper effectively. Now, the first part of the trousers is to make sure that all the pocket flaps are down flat. This is very, very important, otherwise they'll leave a creased effect. Make sure too that the zip is open, otherwise you will get a crease on the fly, and then straighten up the trousers so that the creases are in line. And with some more tissue paper rolled, you start with the cuff of the trousers and you bring up about 5 to 6 inches first, and then using another piece of tissue paper, you bring the back waistband towards the front of the trousers. And what this does is actually creates the space on that hip line there. So tuck the tissue paper well underneath there, and then with the third piece of tissue paper, just above the knee, 2 to 3 inches above the knee, you can then bring your first fold up over that second fold, so that then when you pack the trousers, you can have one pair of trousers with the smooth side up, and then turn the other pair of trousers smooth side down, so that you've got a good balance. And now onto a shirt. Now, shirts and blouses are folded in much the same fashion, and it's debatable as to whether you do the top button up or whether you go for the next one. I find it much easier to do every other button up. That way it's not so aggravating when you get to your destination and every button has been fixed. So just every other button caught up, and then turn the shirt over, face down, with the actual body of the shirt going along in front of you. And then flatten out the main body of the shirt as smooth as possible, making sure that the buttons and buttonholes are flat underneath. And in line with what I was saying about the fact that you've got to try and get any potential creases in flattering places, then the creasing on a shirt or a blouse should be down off centre of the blouse or the shirt. So once you have it nice and flat, take the first sleeve over, right over, straighten it out, and then bring the sleeve back down and gently straighten it up. Now, if you want to, you can use tissue paper. With shirts, it may get a little bit extravagant if you do use too much tissue paper. Same exactly with the second sleeve, but make sure that at the end here that you've got the same distance away from the collar. Otherwise, you'll have lines going down the front of the shirt that look a little uneven. Now, when it comes to the sleeves, once you've got them straightened, make sure that the cuffs are even. Fold the cuffs up just at the top of the cuff rather than on the cuff or too far above, and then with your hand in the centre, just fold the shirt over nice and evenly to give you a well-finished, well-folded shirt. Now, if you just want to protect the collar, once you have folded it, just pop a little roll of tissue paper underneath so that it will actually hold the collar in place. So with the same guidelines as a blouse or a shirt, you're actually going to be able to use those guidelines for dresses, etc. But there is one really good butler tip that I can give you when it comes to folding silk blouses and t-shirts. Now, most of the time when you travel with silk blouses and t-shirts, you'll find that they end up looking more creased than they were before you started, and that's a real nuisance. So if you're going to travel with a substantial amount of t-shirts and silk shirts, try layering them. And what I suggest you do is to take a silk shirt first, and this is one way of trying to create as much space as possible, as far as creating space to reduce the amount of creases. So you can layer several clothes on top of each other. So I'm taking a silk shirt and a t-shirt, and then if you're carrying any woolies, then you can do exactly the same. Put a woolen on, and this will really bulk out your packing. So line them all up so that all the labels are centered, and they don't have to be the same size, although probably they will be. And then you start folding the jumper, same traditional way as you would fold a jumper and a blouse and a skirt and all the rest of it. So you take the first layer over, and then the second layer, and then the third layer. And then you proceed to fold. Now, with a silk shirt, you could put some tissue paper in there, and then bring down all of the 3 sleeves, and then exactly the same on the other side. Don't forget to get the distances the same here. Bring the second layer over, third layer, straighten the sleeves, take each of the sleeves down, and then finally the third one. Exactly the same principle as for the shirts. You're going to fold above the cuff, so bring all of the layers up, hold on to this end, put your hand flat, bring up the bulk of the material, straighten it out, turn it over, and with all that bulk there, you will enjoy crease-free silk blouses and t-shirts. And while we're on tricky items, what about a waistcoat or a vest? Now, they often present a few problems, so let me show you how to fold your waistcoat or vest. And in fact, the easiest way is to undo the buttons and fold in half along the back line. And then once you've done that, you can take your fingers underneath the shoulders, bring out the 2 shoulders together, line up the sleeves, and set the waistcoat down. And if you have to fold it any smaller, instead of folding it here, fold it on the top of the chest, because that's where, if it's done up, when it's buttoned up, you'll find that the creases will drop out a lot easier, if there's going to be any creases, of course. So that's your waistcoat. And ties. More often than not, people tend to roll these because they don't tend to crease too much, but a pure silk tie may well do. And if you want to protect them and stop them sliding around in the suitcase, then you can use some tissue paper. And just an ordinary sheet of tissue paper, and if you have silk belts or any silk scarf, pop it onto the tissue paper and then fold the tissue paper over. Bring the rest of the tie back over like that, and then just roll it. And of course you can do several ties at the same time. So just keep folding over so that you can protect it, and this way your ties won't slip all over the suitcase. When people ask me how long it takes to pack a suitcase, I usually reply 10 minutes. Mind you, that doesn't actually include the fact that it's taken me probably 2 hours to fold all the clothes first. Now, we have folded all the clothes here in advance, which is part of the good organisation towards successful packing. Everything is actually laid out on the bed almost in the order that I'm going to pack it. So it's sort of packing by numbers here. But oddly enough, it's about dirty laundry that I want to talk first, because we all travel and we all need to carry our dirty laundry with us at times. Putting it into a plastic bag is not on, so you need to fold all your clothes as neatly as you would normally and lay them into the bottom of the suitcase. And then to protect them from the other clothes that you're going to be folding to put into the suitcase, what you can do is, using the towel that you're carrying with you, put half of the towel over the dirty laundry and then continue packing as I'm going to show you. And then we're going to use the rest of that towel later on. So that's one way to handle dirty laundry. Now, the basics of packing a suitcase are that you put all the heavy items in the bottom of the suitcase, with shoes and heavier items around the outside of the suitcase, so that the suitcase is going to be balanced when you pack it. And then, of course, it's going to be balanced when you carry it. Now, we're going to start off with items like trousers and jackets. Now, the trousers, you've already seen how they were folded. I have them folded here in a pile with the smooth to the smooth. By that I mean that the smooth side to the smooth side, so that you don't get imprints of pockets or anything else like that on the next pair of trousers. And once you've got all that done, straight away into the suitcase. Of course, all of this would be made a lot easier for you if you, like me, had a butler helping you. And Nadia is going to help me load this suitcase to speed up the process. But with these trousers, I'm actually just going to take back 1 or 2 pairs of trousers just to level it out. So that's the heavy items in the bottom, and then the shoes. Now, we've got some shoes. Normally, I would pack shoes individually into shoe bags. You can use plastic bags, or you can use something like this, which is a shoe bag with a lace tie to it. And these will not only protect your shoes, but also protect all your clothes from your shoes if they have got dirty soles or something like that. But for the sake of the camera, I'm going to put these in so that you can see that the soles of the shoes are actually going to go flat against the bottom of the suitcase. I've got several pairs of shoes here, and you can continue with other pairs of shoes. Again, soles going towards the sides of the suitcases. This actually helps as far as balancing the weight for the suitcase. So I'm just creating layers here. We're building up in layers. You don't do one side and then the other. You just keep coming up in layers. Now, in all these little gaps here, you start putting in some of the smaller items like underwear, socks and belts. So we've got a range of socks here and underwear and what have you. I'm going to put a belt in between the 2 shoes here. That will just sit in there, heavy item there. And then we've got some of the underwear, which can just tuck down, and that will help to keep those shoes in place while we build up our layers. Again, socks. And of course, by doing this in layers, you're actually balancing it. You're bringing it up so that it's nice and level at the same time. I'll have those boxer shorts as well, thank you, Nadia. And we'll put that belt in later on. And so I'm just going to pop some boxer shorts either side here, and then pop another belt down in this little area here, like that. The next heavy item is the jackets. So now I've folded the jackets as I showed earlier. I've got 2 jackets here. And the secret of placing the jacket into the suitcase successfully is to make sure that what is the back seam is towards the handle of the suitcase, because the front of the jacket is actually tucked into the back seam. So that will go towards the top of the suitcase. And then our second jacket, turn it over, and again with the front towards the top of the suitcase. This is not a load-bearing area. That's why it's important to have something that might have potential for creasing to be at the top of the suitcase. Now, this area here now needs to be levelled off, so we now start to put items like toiletries bags. Now, I favour the idea of being as well organised as possible with toiletries bags. So if you've got different things that you want to separate into different toiletries bags, it actually spreads the weight. So we've got 3 toiletries bags here, and whether it's gents or ladies, you can separate the different items so that you've got body care, hair care, and shaver and those sort of things, and so that it actually spreads the weight. And of course, you may also be taking your own hairdryer, and that may pop down into an area like this. Just tuck that under the jacket. There's a lot of common sense involved with packing a suitcase, but as long as you remember that you put heavy items at the bottom and build up to the lighter items, you'll be fine. Now, the next item that we're going to put in here are some of the other heavier items like jumpers and bathrobes. So Bathrobe, beautiful bathrobe here. Lay that into the bottom there. It won't matter if that one gets a little bit creased, so if it's at the bottom of the suitcase. Then the heavier jumpers. This is a silk shirt that I've wrapped around a jumper. Place that one in on the top there. And 2 other items, and just offset those slightly. And then we've got some t-shirts which we haven't wrapped around jumpers. And for this I'm just going to fold them back in half. They've been folded conventionally, but they'll just fit in there nice and neatly. And then we move to some of the lighter items. And just one tip here is that if you want to balance the shirt so that all the collars aren't on one side, you invert them to pack them. So you turn one over so that you have one collar one end and one collar the other end. And then when you load them into the suitcase, and I'll put 2 over this side, they will be well balanced. And finally, some lightweight shorts. Just pop them on. They've been folded in much the same way as trousers so that you get the crease along the back there. And then our waistcoat or vest with the front of the waistcoat towards the top of the suitcase. And ties, they've been wrapped in tissue paper. They can just be popped very neatly on the top. And finally, if you're travelling with your own towel, it helps to put it across the top of the suitcase so that you can neaten the whole suitcase and then bring up the elastic straps to hold everything in place. Just pull them up. When you pull them up, pull them right up rather than drag them across. Pull them right up and then do it up and let them down again naturally. There's your beautifully packed suitcase. If you're travelling with a hanging bag, it's pretty self-explanatory. All these zips and pockets here tend to indicate exactly what you should be putting in them. Shoes here, ties, jumpers and shirts, etc. And up here you've got socks and jocks, and then you can start loading on the hangers. Now this one has got a press button that means that you can pull out the hanging rail and just load your shirts and your suits and then the wet pack onto the rail, push it in. And then make sure that you do up the elastic band here around so that it actually holds in the centre so that it doesn't all flop down to the sides. And then this just simply closes up like a hanging wardrobe, and you just zip all the way round. You've got these pockets here which you can use as well on the outside, but remember to put soft items on the outside so that it's not too hard against your body when you're carrying it. Just a quick butler tip: when you're hanging clothes in the wardrobe and you don't want to get any extra creases, make sure that when you hang you get the label directly under the hook, and then take the sleeves and just hold them together while you hang them onto the hook, and then allow the sleeves to drop naturally. This will make sure that the sleeves stay in the right place. And for the ladies, you may be lucky enough to have one of these Samsonite hard-shelled double-sided suitcases, which actually does make packing a little bit easier, because on one side you can put all the odd-shaped items, and then on the other side you can put the main bulk of your clothes. In here I've got already the toiletries bags, and just a little tip here actually, as far as toiletry bags are concerned, try and spread the weight and maybe have 3 or 4 different toiletries bags so that you've actually got one for your hair, one for your body, one for your makeup and one for your nails. And this means that you know exactly where everything is at any given time. Makes life a little bit easier. So we've got our hairdryer, our jewellery roll, shoes in the shoe bags ready here, and the underwear, of course, all packed neatly, folded neatly, and then perhaps a few more items as well to pop on. Like that. And then you can then load the jumpers, silk blouses and all those other sort of things that you've perhaps folded around a jumper to create more space. I've used 3 items together here: a big jumper, a lurex jumper and a silk blouse, and then some nightwear. So that's ready to pack that side and finish off. Use the ties because they will hold everything in place and stop all the items from falling down into a heap at the bottom of the suitcase. And now for the other side. Now in this side, I've got some of the more delicate items. In the bottom, because I don't particularly want to fold this suit, I've included the skirt inside the jacket and actually put this across diagonally. Then 2 raw silk dresses and slightly more fragile dress on top. And these pleated skirts always seem to present a bit of a problem. And the simplest way to treat it is to actually fold it into 3 and then just twist. Twist it around so that it'll actually hold the pleats and roll it into a circle. And this way you'll find that it'll retain its shape and it'll fit into that little space there. And then on the top we can put jackets. I've got a black satin jacket. Jackets are usually the heavier items, so I'm putting those onto the bottom or nearer the bottom. Beautiful evening dress, but slightly more robust, isn't going to crease, but I have put some tissue paper in there to create some space. Now for rather fancy items like this beautiful waistcoat, you might not want to fold it any more than necessary, so consider placing it diagonally into the suitcase. For items that may be a little floaty and are going to move around, put tissue paper around so that it keeps it in place. And finally, these pantsuits always present a bit of a problem, so let me just show you what I've done here. It's a pair of trousers with a camisole top, and I've actually folded the trousers into the centre of the camisole top and then fold up and then hold the whole item in place with the tissue paper. And then just turn the tissue paper over so that it holds in place further and put it down on the top. And then this section here then rests over and just locks into place on the other side. And all your items will be held very, very safely. And if you're going to take your dirty laundry, perhaps you might put it into here. So that's one use for this particular pocket. But bear in mind it's actually going to rest down on these shoes here. So another beautifully packed suitcase, very, very well organised, and it means that when you open this up you can actually see at a glance where everything is, and it's very, very good for travelling because you can actually keep the sections apart. So if you need to get to your main items of toiletries quickly, you can do so. And for that overnight stay, shoes, toiletries, makeup, pantyhose, jewellery, underwear, evening dress and jacket, and something to fly home in tomorrow. Now I know a lot of people don't like ironing shirts too much, but I actually find it quite good therapy, and there's an easy way of doing it. It's quite a quick way too, and it's very, very effective. Start with the inside of the yoke. This is one of the first double areas to cover, and then move on to the inside of the buttonholes, the pocket and the buttons, and then the inside of the cuffs. Once you've done that, you can finish the sleeves and then the outside of the cuffs as well. Flatten the outside of the cuff. Do the second sleeve, and once you've done the second sleeve, you can do the yoke. The outside of the yoke, just finish that off because that's one of the main presentation areas, and right in round the collar, and then start on the main body. First one front, the back, and then the other front, and just finish off with the main presentation side of the collar. It's very, very important, and there is your quickly and easily ironed shirt. Now, if you're going to press trousers between wears, it would be a good idea to brush first. And if you're going to use a good bristle brush, use sweeping strokes up the trousers. The same with jackets, always take the strokes upwards so that you actually release the dust from the fabric. Now, once you've taken the dust off the outside of the trousers, you might want to do the inside leg. Take one leg up and just take the two sides in, drop the leg back down to hold it, and then just brush accordingly. If you're going to press, you could consider using an ironing cloth. Now this can be just a piece of sheet that you can use, and you can use it dry or wet. I have actually got this damp, and you put this down over the trousers You can use it on skirts, coats, dresses, anything. What this does is protects your clothes from the hot iron. It also means that you can use a much hotter iron. So when you put the iron down, you've got a layer between the fabric. You can always be sure that you're not going to spoil the fabric. When you do so, you can see the steam coming from it. You're going to get a much better finish. You're going to get beautiful creases, the sort of creases that you would get from the dry cleaner, in between wears, and save yourself some money. So you can see just how lovely and smooth that edge is. So use the cloth, wet or dry, plenty of pressure, and you will find that you will have a very, very good result accordingly. If you need to press the waistband, take the trousers from the board and then drape them over the end of the ironing board, and use the ironing cloth in the same way so that you don't get the lining marks onto the trousers. It's a very, very simple way of pressing trousers, and also very effective. It's often said that a person's character may be judged by how clean their shoes are, and there may be some truth in that, but there's another very good reason for cleaning your shoes, and that is that you can actually extend their life. And what I'm going to do is to show you how to clean a pair of shoes. Although it's a gentleman's shoes, the principles apply exactly the same to ladies' shoes and children's shoes. Now, if you've got a pair of shoes that have laces in, you should remove the laces first. The reason for that is that the more polish that gets onto the laces, the more it dries out and the more brittle they become, and that is why your shoelaces break. It also means that you can actually get to the tongue underneath the laces and clean that as well. I favour having two brushes for shoe polishing, one for on and one for off, and you keep them stored together like that so that they remain moist. And dipping the on brush into the shoe polish, you then start with a circular motion. And the reason for this is that you're actually trying to work the polish into the leather, because the polish is going to feed the leather. So a circular motion means that you're going to actually get it into the leather in a better way. So you just keep going round with a circular motion, making sure that you get into the area between the sole and the upper. Right the way round. Shoe cleaning should only take you about 4 minutes. It's a very, very quick and easy task. And technically, when you haven't got your feet in your shoes, you should have some shoe trees in there to keep their shape. And when your feet come out of the shoes and your shoes are still warm, that is when you should actually place some shoe trees or some padding or stuffing into the shoes to keep their shape or to retain their shape. So once you've completely covered the shoes on the outside in polish, in this circular motion, don't forget to add more polish. You then should just leave them for maybe a minute or two to dry whilst you do the second shoe. So once you've finished the second shoe with polish, you can then start to polish the first shoe using the other brush, of course. And this time, instead of the circular motion that you would use for putting on the polish, you're going to use a sharp sweeping motion. And this is really by means of actually taking the brush across very lightly but very fast. And this really gets a good polish. Very, very light strokes until you start to get that lovely gloss on there. Covering the whole of the shoe, just do a section at a time and just keep going round until you get that lovely gloss all over. And for the final touch, just take a duster and just rub it over just to make sure that there's not too much polish left, because if you're going to wear light coloured slacks, you're going to find that you're going to get some of the polish off onto the slack. So this is an important stage. And of course, put back the laces, having remembered how you prefer to have the laces threaded. And now you have a beautifully clean pair of shoes, not only clean, but impressive too. Now, I said I was going to show you how to tie a bow tie, so here goes. It's actually quite simple, but it seems to cause a lot of problems to people. Now, if you have one side longer than the other, depends on whether you're left or right-handed, mind, you take one side and you take the longer end over the shorter end and bring that end up through. And it's very much like tying a gift. Then tie it, pull it tight, bring one side over, that's the shorter side, bring the longer end over and take it in behind, and then pull. And pull it until it's tight. Don't worry that it looks like a mess at the moment. Just pull it tight and then get the ends and just straighten it up. Bring them together, just adjust the knot. Now what most people are trying to do is to actually get 2 loops at the front. This will never happen. You have to have 1 loop at the front and 1 loop at the back. That's why the bow tie is shaped the way it is. And then once you've got the bow tie tied, you can then take the collar down accordingly. Yeah.